Welcome back to the live reading of my memoir entitled Rebirth. I'm reading chapter 9. If you just stumbled upon this video now, just know that I started in order, so you can go back and start at the beginning so that you know what it is that I'm reading or sharing here. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe so you know when I'm dropping the next chapter. And if you like what I'm reading, please like and share it so that it reaches the people who are meant to hear this story. Thank you so much for being here. I'm reading chapter 9, which is entitled Back on Track. Back in the bathtub, I poured water over my belly, trying to soothe the intensifying contractions. The house was quiet. Everyone except Mauro had wandered downstairs to the kitchen for coffee and food, leaving us alone. I couldn't shake the memory of Nadine's fleeting appearance by the tub. I hadn't seen or heard from her since, and her face was already blurring, like a ghost at the edge of my awareness. Why hadn't she intervened when I begged for help? Why was I left to face Amy alone? What was the purpose of having a second midwife if she wouldn't advocate for me? Amy remained a silent observer, offering no comfort or guidance, only the bare minimum I extracted through persistent questioning. I leaned on Mauro, trusting his unwavering support as we breathed and moved together. Sometimes the world narrowed to just us, synchronized with the rhythm of labor. When the floorboards weren't creaking, I forgot anyone else existed. Evelyn, the student midwife, arrived in the early evening, carrying her birthing stool. Squatting on this can help everything progress more quickly, she said. Irritated that I hadn't been offered sooner, I lowered myself onto the stool. Evelyn stayed by my side, whispering soothing words of encouragement. Push down as hard as you can, she instructed. As the next contraction hit, I leaned into Mauro, relishing Evelyn's hands massaging my lower back. The relief was immediate. For the first time in hours, I luxuriated in the comfort of being supported. Though I still felt no urge to push, Evelyn encouraged me to do so to expedite the process. Push hard, as though you're trying to defecate, she said, demonstrating. It felt unnatural to force a push without the corresponding urge, and despite the effort, I remained at 7 centimeters. Maybe her bowels are full, Amy offered, re-entering the room. Her voice grated on my nerves. How about she drinks the castor oil concoction? Mauro directed her to the kitchen, where she retrieved the ingredients. Soon she returned, holding a large coffee mug to my face. Drink the whole thing, she said. I tilted the cup back and chugged the thick, oily, peanut buttery laced brew as everyone cheered me on. Then, in one violent motion, I immediately threw it back up. The warm liquid hurled through my throat and out of my mouth. Mauro placed a hand on my shoulder and back. Did it do anything? He asked, his voice sharp with irritation. Amy smirked and waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry, it's having the desired effect, she said, her tone amused and smug. He mumbled something, clearly skeptical. I shared his doubt, but mine burned hotter. I sneered through my next breath, the nausea rising almost as fast as my resentment. I wanted to scream, to throw something across the room, to demand someone else, anyone else, take over. I hated everything about her presence, her smugness, her indifference, her power, but I couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now, not while in the throes of labor. So I swallowed the fury, buried the rage, and turned my focus inward, one breath, one contraction, one push at a time. I was still pushing, my face red and slick with sweat, when she handed me a chunky bar of chocolate. I had no desire, no willpower, and no energy to eat it. I let it drop from my hand without a second thought. It landed with a sharp thud in the bucket beneath the stool, like her other misguided attempts to help. I wasn't going to keep pretending her presence served a purpose. Then, after a few contractions, the midwives cheered. Everything is moving along. I glanced over, exhausted. Amy was now holding up the chocolate bar between her blue-gloved fingers, looking smug, almost triumphant. My stomach turned. Did she really think I just defecated? I bit my lip, turned away, and focused on breathing through the next contraction, willing myself to ignore the absurdity of it all. How about going up and down the stairs now to speed things along, she suggested. Her voice sliced through my thoughts. As much as I resented her, I was willing to try anything to move things along, even if the idea originated with her. I followed her to the stairs, pausing midway to clutch the railing and breathe through another wave of pain. It's most effective if you thump as heavy as possible with each step as you move up and down the stairs, she said. But really push your weight into it. Evelyn supported me as I stomped up and down, my breath ragged, contractions rolling through me. I moved like a machine built for this purpose, pausing only when the pain overwhelmed me. After about 10 rounds, Amy said, "If things don't progress soon, we'll have to go to the hospital." I had been in active labor for over 9 hours, yet I kept pouring Herculean energy into thumping up and down the stairs, pausing only when a contraction hit. I pressed my hands and cheek against the cold, unyielding wall, breathing through the pain. The chill of the surface comforted me. Evelyn's hands moved steadily over my lower back, grounding me, lending just enough strength to keep going. I was near the bottom of the staircase when the front door creaked open, and Diego, Mauro's brother, appeared hesitantly in the doorway. He moved cautiously through a dusty beam of light streaming in from outside, his posture betraying uncertainty, as though he felt unsure if he should be there at all. Embarrassment shot through me. "Can someone get my bathrobe?" I shouted, my voice tight, desperate to hide my nakedness. Voices stirred. Someone blocked Diego's path, and he stepped back out. I focused on my breath, watching specks of dust float in the sunlight from the open door. A robe was placed on my shoulders, and I fumbled to pull it tightly across my chest. I felt exposed, raw and hostile, not at all how I had imagined this would be. Diego was ushered back in. He moved quickly past, awkward and silent, his head hanging down. "I'm sorry," I muttered between contractions. The words caught in my throat, my voice thin, stretched, and tired. "It's all right," he said, eyes downcast, moving forward as if each step took deliberate effort. Maybe he didn't want to be there. I certainly didn't. A contraction yanked me back to the matter at hand. I breathed through it, then continued up the stairs, Evelyn by my side. "Evelyn, come here," Amy called, her voice sharp and commanding. Evelyn quickly climbed the stairs to meet Amy. I stood helpless through the next contraction, listening to their low murmurs drifting down from above. Amy was walking her through the events like a business briefing. I felt abandoned. Why was she pulling Evelyn away from me as if my needs didn't matter? "Evelyn, please help," I called, face pressed against the wall for comfort. "Please." She hurried back down and pressed her fingers into my back, but her focus remained elsewhere. With the next contraction, she was gone again, back at Amy's side. Why did I have to beg for help? It made no sense. Birthing woman here," I tried to shout, but my voice cracked, strained by exhaustion. I slammed my fist against the wall as another contraction tore through me. Evelyn rushed down the stairs. When Amy called her again, Evelyn's hand paused on my back for a moment, as if she too wanted to stay. But then her touch slipped away, and she climbed the stairs once more, back into the echo of Amy's instructions. I felt utterly alone. I couldn't believe this was happening. Did Amy truly not care? Was I even human to her? She seemed incapable of seeing me or being present with my pain. Instead, she lingered on the periphery, consumed by her tasks, treating me like a checklist, a case file, a job to manage and get through. Shoulders slumped in defeat, I turned and began climbing the stairs again, alone. Then I felt it. I froze, hands pressing over my belly, breathing through another contraction. Slowly, I lifted my gaze to the top of the stairs, hoping this time my news might be received with care. But Amy was already huffing, visibly annoyed by my attempts to get Evelyn's attention. She was the most important person in the room, and I was stealing her spotlight. "I feel pressure on my bladder again," I said, bent forward, my hands cupping over the pressure as I breathed through the next contraction. When I looked up again, Amy stood taller, lips tighter. "If you mention the catheter one more time, we're going to the hospital." Her voice was sharp, threatening, but I wasn't going to let her strong arm me into compliance. I was ready to jump ship, and her threat was the perfect way out. "Fine, we're going to the hospital." I stomped down the stairs towards the front door. anything to get away from you. I reached the bottom of the stairs and took in the scene. The street was empty. The trees stood tall in full color, and though the sky was still bright, I could tell dusk was near. A bird glided overhead, and then a contraction struck. I closed my eyes and dropped to my knees, bracing myself. My hand reached forward and planted against the cold cement walkway, grounding me as I bore down through the wave of pain. Surprisingly, the contraction felt lighter out here in the open air. When it passed, I laughed out loud at the absurdity. I was outside, in labor, alone. It was nothing like what we'd discussed in our preparation meetings, and yet it was beautiful. The sunlight on my skin, the breeze, the space. The next contraction came just as gently. Eyes closed, I breathed through it again, still kneeling. Then I felt a hand on my arm pulling me gently. I looked up. It was my mom. She was laughing too. "Where is everyone?" I asked. "Panic broke out in the house," she said. "Amy decided she had to pack and left everyone without direction." A few contractions passed before everyone gathered outside. Then the question started. How do we get there? Where do we meet? What should we bring? Mauro and my mom fielded most of the questions. My mom then asked Amy if she could ride with us so Mauro could support me in the back seat. "No," Amy said, "I need my car and supplies." She kept walking towards her car, unconcerned about the lingering questions. "I can't drive in Toronto," my mom protested, "especially at night." Amy shrugged, not looking back, and put her supplies in the trunk of her car. Mauro's mom doesn't drive. Amy walked around to the driver's side door unmoved. "What about Evelyn?" "She's a student," Amy said, looking back at us over the roof of her car. "She can't be with patients without a certified midwife there with her." "An ambulance?" Amy laughed. "No." "What are we supposed to do?" I asked, bent in pain. "Figure it out," Amy said, before getting into her car and slamming the door. We stood stunned. Evelyn looked torn, helpless. Then she climbed into Amy's car. The engine started and they drove off. We watched the car disappear without saying a word. We were on our own now. I don't remember who broke the silence first, but it took us a few minutes to work out what to do next. And that is the reading of chapter 9 of my memoir, Rebirth. If you like the story that I'm sharing with you, please like and share it so it reaches the people who are meant to hear it. And if you want to give me feedback, please use the comments. I so appreciate it. I would love to hear what you think of the story so far. And I'm glad that you're here, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.